Matt Schlapp served as George W. Bush's former political director. He's also the chairman of the American Conservative Union. So, Matt, great to have you back.
Great to be with you, Brooke.
Before we get into the substance of some of this, my question to you initially is on the timing, because here we are, you know, the Bush family again front and center with Jeb's campaign to become president, struggling campaign to become president, and now the book, you know, from Bush 41. Coincidence or calculated?
You know, I have to say I think it's more of a coincidence. Here you have George Bush 41, a revered figure who's in the winter of his life, and I think his boys want to see him get his, you know, this kind of treatment of what a great man of history he has been. But the consequence of 41 being focused on is that it always impacts his sons, and it definitely will impact conversations about Jeb Bush.
It will. We're going to get to that. But first, to the substance, the revelations. Rumsfeld and Cheney, you were Bush 43's deputy assistant. Reading all these details, what about these revelations, Matt, surprises you the most, and do you agree with any of it?
Well, you know, it's a great political story, and it's worth covering because, you know, we had like a little bit of a team of rivals on the right with Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld and George H.W. Bush. You know, it's interesting. The only thing about this I don't agree with, and I really don't agree with, I had a lot of meetings with President Bush 43 in the Oval Office, and I was never confused as to who was going to make the decision, and I was never confused as to what the direction was at the end of the meeting. George W. Bush 43 was a very clear and direct talker. You knew exactly what he wanted to happen. And this idea that Dick Cheney or other people were kind of running around him really making the decisions is really pretty absurd.
I think in the end, Bush 41 acknowledges that. I think part of his piece when he was talking about Cheney, saying the big mistake was that was made was letting Cheney bring in his kind of own State Department. He went on and said, I think they overdid that, but it's not Cheney's fault. It's the president's fault. So the buck stopped with Bush 41. Also, back to Jeb Bush. He has since responded to all of this today. Here you go.
Donald Rumsfeld said that your father was getting up in the years and that you misjudged your brother's character. Do you want to respond?
No, not really. I love my dad. He's a great guy. I think the book's going to be worth reading. I recommend it.
Okay, there you go. Short and sweet. No huge news made there. But from Donald Rumsfeld, he said this is a statement, quote, Bush 41 is getting up in the years and misjudges Bush 43, who I found made his own decisions. There are hundreds of memos on Rumsfeld.com the represented Vice DOD gave the president. Getting up in years, Matt? What's that supposed to mean? Come on.
It's a little bit the pot calling the kettle black. I mean, when you have the guy in his middle 80s calling the guy in his 90s an old guy, it leaves the rest of us kind of wondering what that's all about. But look, these are old rivalries. I think it's going to be a great read. It is really interesting. And look, there's a fair amount of criticism to throw around at the Bush administration's, Bush 43 administration's foreign policy. And history is going to be the judge as to whether these decisions were good decisions. But there's no question about the fact that we made a lot of errors in judgment. And Don Rumsfeld and Condi Rice, Colin Powell and the others, they deserve the scrutiny they're going to get.
Mm-hmm. I guess rivalries don't go away even if you are an octogenarian. Another revelation, just quickly, another revelation in the book that way back in 1988, Donald Trump wanted to be Bush 41's running mate. What? Surprised?
Wow. Yeah, that's a little bit strange. You know what the most strange thing about that to me, Brooke, is that I can't imagine Donald Trump being number 2 to anyone.
He is a winner. We hear him say it over and over.
He's a winner.
Talking about those polls. Finally here, you know, with national journals, Ron Fournier, he raised this question today, the whole back to Jeb Bush. What if Jeb Bush, earlier on the campaign trail, when he really tripped up, you know, on the Iraq question, had said what his father is now saying about, you know, his brother, and then also about Cheney and Rumsfeld with regard to Iraq. Do you think that would have straightened things out from the get-go and he wouldn't have fumbled quite as much as he did?
He did fumble on that question, and I think his own brother, the former president, didn't expect him to fumble on it. I think President Bush 43 is totally comfortable with the idea that Jeb has to run his own race. Look, I heard George W. Bush tell a lot of candidates over the years, you have to do what's right for you in your campaign, and I'm positive that he has the same feeling about his brother. He'll take his licks as the former president, and so will his father, but they want Jeb Bush to run a winning campaign, and that's what they would tell him to do.
On that winning campaign, before I let you go, one more piece of sound. This is Jeb Bush with MSNBC talking about this audio from a conference call.
I'll get back home, do a little preparation on the debate. I promise you I'll do better. All the nervous Nellies on the call, chill out. We're going to do better, I promise you. And this is going to be a fun campaign.
All the nervous Nellies on the call, chill out, Jeb Bush says. Can he bring it? When will he bring it? I mean, he has to be so sick of these single digits in polls.
Look, his back's against the wall. I think the horse race in these polls is a little overstated, but there's no question his trend line has been way down, and he knows that his debate performances have been bad. And I think he realizes that he has to campaign for president. He did successfully when he was running for governor in Florida, and it was about conservative themes and really connecting to voters. This is his moment to start to do that. He's got a new plan to do that. We're going to see if it works.
Matt Schlapp, thank you.
Thanks, Brooke.